I mean, we can do a little bit of baseball, but maybe not. We'll see. Grant Paulsen's our friend at 106.7 The Fan, Odyssey Station in Washington, D.C., and joins us now live on the River Islands guest line. How you doing, Grant? Thanks for coming on, man.
Fellas, good to talk to you. Yeah, I got to say, I think all of baseball is watching this series with bated breath to see how the 500 Nats and the Giants stack up here.
It's a biggie. There's no way to. In fact, it's so big that maybe we should build toward it and talk about something else for a second.
Nice.
So let's start with this, Grant. I was just thinking we wanted to call you partially because there's so much talk on the internet because Brandon Aiyuk wants to be a Commander. I never really stopped to find out, do the Commanders want Brandon Aiyuk to be a Commander? What's your take on that?
So they have been very, very coy externally on how they feel. Here's what we know. Jaden Daniels and Brandon Aiyuk are very, very close. Daniels, in a recent press conference, wouldn't say that he's advocating for Aiyuk to be in Washington, although that's long been the expectation and the assessment on the outside, but that he did say he's a brother of mine, and I want to help him, and I want to make sure things go well for him. So I think behind the scenes, he's probably trying to pull those strings. Obviously, the general manager of this team is Adam Peters, who helped to draft Brandon Aiyuk and was in San Francisco when he was ascending as a young player, kind of before things went off the rails. So that's another reason to believe maybe he would come here. All I could tell you is that from a fan base standpoint, and I'm surprised by this because I want nothing to do with Brandon Aiyuk at all, I would say like 75% of Commanders fans, maybe 60%, very much like the idea. This is a team that needs more wide receiver talent, that needs more weaponry. They're in a mode where Daniels is on the rookie contract and probably doesn't have enough pass catchers around him that have Pro Bowl caliber potential. So the idea that you bring in Aiyuk and he plays at the level he once did is intoxicating. I just think it's been a year and a half since he's played. We don't know how healthy he is. He seems like a complete pain in the butt. So I'm good. But a lot of people, fans outside, want it to happen, and I think we all expect that this will happen. I do think Washington's going to eventually sign him when San Francisco lets him walk.
What's the fan awareness, in your opinion, of all of the things that Brandon Aiyuk has done? Has that permeated all the way out to Washington, D.C.? Because here, it's a lot of what we've talked about for the past year and a half.
So I think we're on the beat here more recently. So we talk a lot about last week, obviously, the arrest warrant that's issued for the speeding violation that was several weeks to a couple months old. Today, we did way too much of my radio show on his weird social media posts this weekend, including his shirtless bathroom picture showing his underwear with his Commander's hat on and his, veiled comments about the 49ers running from the belt and calling them lil ass boy and whatever all that was. We broke that down like it was a Zapruder film and got in the lab on that today. We debated whether or not that would be something that the Commanders cared about, or would this register for Adam Peters. I think it's one of those things where if a fan in this town wants another weapon and wants Brandon Aiyuk, it doesn't really matter that much, assuming nothing new or crazy comes out. They're going to say, this is not that big of a deal. He's Jaden Daniels' buddy. Daniels will keep him walking the straight and the narrow. And then if it's someone like me that goes, hey, I'm not so sure. This guy hasn't played in a long time, and there's more baggage than you can fit on the overhead compartment. There's not anything that's going to change that for me either. But as I said, if I had to bet, like right now at a sports book, I think it's obvious that as of the end of August, the very latest, they're going to move on from him. I think it'll be closer to the start of training camp. And I think Washington is the one place he wants to be. I think based on all the familiar faces, I think this is where he will be. The question is, how much does he actually help them? I hope it's on a very small one-year show-me flyer type deal, and we'll see if he's healthy enough to play football. The one thing he's not posting is videos of him working out or running routes. Like, I'd like to see, can he actually run? What kind of, I don't even want to say shape. He looks like he's in great shape. That was why he posted a shirtless picture, because people said he was getting heavy. I don't think that's the case. But is he running routes? Like, is his leg okay? Like, do you guys know? We have no idea.
No clue. Yeah, no clue. Grant
we know
Paulsen.
That his accelerator foot is fine. That we're sure of.
Yes. Yeah. His leg is strong enough to drive 104. I got that covered.
Yeah, that's good. Grant Paulsen at 106.7 The Fan, Odyssey Station in D.C., joining us here, Willard and Dibbs, on 95.7 The Game. Grant, from the sound of it, you probably scoff at this, but I do want to ask, is there any chance that Washington even gives the Niners a bag of chips? I mean, would they move from the 6th round to the 7th round? Is there anything that Washington would do to, I don't know, I guess maybe help the Niners save face?
So I don't think it's the giving up of some non-value, right? I think they would be fine with a pick swap or something like that. When you make the trade, though, the contract carries over in some capacity is the understanding. So you could rework some of the numbers, and they could take some on, and you could take some on. But this is a guy that was paid at a top 5 level, and still to this moment, looking it up today, as I think the 9th highest AAV at the position. So the reason Washington and every other team is going to not offer a 7th-round pick in 3 years or anything else that they could offer is that they're going to sign this guy on the, for 60 cents on the dollar. I mean, he's going to get a 1-year deal, and for me, it should be the minimum based on the fact that, again, it's, everyone talks about the antics off the field, and those have heard him. He has not played in a year and a half. He has not played at a high level since 2023. I don't know what about that would secure him some $5 million, $10 million in a 1-year deal bag, but maybe because of the relationship with Peters, because they have tons of cap space, they'll be more willing to pay him a little bit. But I think you could get him at next to nothing on a show-me contract, which is kind of the mode I feel like he should be in at this point. So I say no to that. I just don't know why, unless you could, if you made the trade and then you're able to just get a new deal, okay, they don't care about giving up a pick swap, but why do that? He also is wearing your gear. He wants to come here. So it's not like you're in some competition. Unless another team's quarterback also played at Arizona State and is his best buddy, I don't think there's a team competing with them, if that makes sense.
It doesn't make sense, and I think you put that perfectly. Does Jaden Daniels have enough sway, even at his young age, to go to the front office and really advocate for Aiyuk to become a Commander?
So it's a great question. If this was a non-problematic player who wasn't at odds with the team, I would say definitely. Like, let's just say if Kayshon Boutte was about to be released by the Patriots, who played with Daniels at LSU, who's an ascending young player who was okay last year, and Daniels said, I really want to play with this guy, great relationship, great rapport, let's do this, I think that would carry some weight. He's well-liked in the building. He's very sharp. He's a hard worker. Everybody kind of loves the demeanor, the mindset. I think with Aiyuk, you listen to him, and maybe you do your due diligence, but I don't think it's the end-all, be-all. You got a lot of legwork to do after that.
Grant Paulsen is with us here from D.C. on Willard and Dibbs 95.7 The Game. Grant, this is a sort of an aside, but out of curiosity, what was Washington's experience with Deebo Samuel, and why do you think he's still just sitting on the sidelines right now of the whole NFL?
It was interesting. I mean, Deebo had games where he was tremendous. He was their best weapon. And circuit to circuit last year, frankly, because Terry McLaurin was hurt so much, he was their de facto lead receiver and probably their most dynamic player on offense for the most part. There were too many games as the year went on, though, where he was banged up, either played through pain or would come on and off the sideline, things that you guys remember. There were some questions as well, and you guys had a lot of these in San Fran about the shape he was in at different points and things as well. I think overall it was a success because they gave up a 5th-round pick. They got a guy who put up very similar numbers to what he did in his final year in San Francisco, and they used him a ton. I mean, he was heavily involved in their offense. They didn't love their offense, though. They didn't love what Cliff Kingsbury was doing. They blew him out. They're going to a completely new scheme with David Blau, a first-year offensive coordinator and play caller, former quarterback, who's going to run something like a Ben Johnson, Chicago, Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota scheme. Those are the last 2 offenses he quarterbacked in the National Football League, along with Arizona. I think he's going to have a little Kingsbury in there too. But my guess is, fellas, that Deebo will be somewhere in training camp and we'll get an okay deal. I just think you've now seen over multiple stops that the health, being in shape, the 17 games over 18 weeks, you're not going to get maximum capacity Deebo every single week. When it's 72 and sunny, it's 7 for 75 and a touchdown, but there's a lot of those weeks where it's like 3 for 24 And he's not a guy that can route people up or get open. You kind of have to scheme him open, get him going downhill, let him run over people. So that there's a scheme element to him, I think, that matters a lot, too.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco and Odyssey Sports Station, and the home of the Golden State Warriors and Valkyries, always live on the free Odyssey app. Coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios. And we're talking to our friend, Odyssey, Washington, D.C., 106.7 The Fan, Grant Paulsen on 95.7 The Game.
Grant, one more from the alumni file. While we're here, Javon Kinlaw is a Commanders. What do you guys think of Javon, who first-round pick here, didn't really do it as a 49er, but now he's on his third team? What do you think of him?
Yeah, so Kinlaw had some huge plays for them. He's so big and disruptive. He wrecked games. He was very good at living in the backfield on some flash plays. I think at times, though, I'm talking to a lot of the people within the building and also who study the tape closely, they had issues stopping the run with run fits, and he was a big part of that. Just kind of, being either in the wrong lane or maybe trying to make a play, doing things where they need to clean that up. He needs to clean that up if they're going to be a better run-stuffing team. He's very noticeable with his size, and he does make these plays where I would say 2 or 3 in a really good game, 4 times you're going to hear his number, you're going to hear his name, you're going to see him flashing in the backfield. Overall, I would say he had a pedestrian first season in Washington, and they paid him huge money. He got $15 million a year in free agency, guys. I mean, he was their big splash last year. And I remember having guests on from the Jets where he had been, from San Francisco, and everyone's kind of going, I don't really see that. I don't get that. He doesn't rush the quarterback a whole lot. He wasn't great against the run. And Adam Peters was convinced and sold with that size he was going to help them get a lot better against the run. I see the vision because he is so monstrous and he does take on double teams and do some of those things. But he had 0 sacks, was never really a factor at all getting up the field, pressuring the quarterback. So they need a lot more out of him, in my opinion. The big emphasis for them is defense. They have the 6th most money spent in the NFL after this offseason on their defense. Spent $100 million on Odafe Owe on the edge, brought in another edge in Caleb Chason for $12 million. They signed 13 free agents that I believe are going to end up either starting or playing big roles, 10 of them on the defensive side of the ball. They're going to have almost an entirely new starting front 7 at different positions, and they have a new defensive coordinator in Durante Jones. So they have 2 new coordinators. I think defensively, the story of their season will be how much can they take off of Jaden Daniels' plate. I told you they're a little short on weaponry and wide receivers. They're banking on that kind of indirect balance being affected positively for Daniels, where maybe he only has to score 20 to win, where you play a little complementary football. But Kinlaw's got to be in the middle of that, guys. He's got to play like the player that they thought he was when they signed him for $15 million. I would have given him like a CC minus last year, which was fine. But when you sign him to that kind of money, you're looking for A minus, B plus football, and they probably need a few more real impact games to get that.
Grant, I do have one baseball question for you, and it's this. Everybody, when their team is stinking, uses the Washington Nationals as the example of, hey, it could turn around. Everyone knows that whole, they were 19-31 through 50 games.
Correct.
And then went on to win the World Series. Well, the Giants also right now are 12 games under 500. They're 66 games in. But what would you tell people who think that it's realistic to do that, to be 12 under 500 about a third of the way through and then, boop, just turn it around?
Yes, I would tell them that being drafted in the 6th round doesn't mean you get to be Tom Brady. That season was insanity. It was a blast. It was crazy, but it could have gone a different way than it did a million times over. And only one of those has happened for that reason. But it's funny. We talk about this on our show a lot. Anytime the Nats are playing a team that's struggling or bad, like a month or 2 into the season, they'll be doing that same thing. The 2019 Nationals, all that means is you're just not a good baseball team. Like the one time Tom Brady became Tom Brady, there are so many other fill-in-the-blank random 6th-round quarterbacks that didn't become him. If you're saying that, you're wearing a black T-shirt and sucking in and going, I don't need to go to the gym tonight.
Well, that's well played.